Welcome to my little corner. Today, we'll be taking a look at one of my horror short stories. It's kind of in the vein of a creepypasta called Doors. Enjoy.
Union Journal was found in an abandoned hotel outside of town, near where the latest victim of the exploding killer was found. Some entries and details have been lost due to the blood and viscera covering the pages, but detectives have managed to piece together the following entries.
Today, we buried Karen. It was a small, somber affair. Just family and a few close friends. Everyone struggling to comprehend the suddenness of it all. The doctors said it was a freak accident, an aneurysm that must have burst without warning. They explained it away with clinical detachment, how the blood vessel had just given out, how it caused an internal explosion that was, by their account, unprecedented in its severity. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something isn't right. That mess we found in the pantry, it wasn't just blood. There were pieces of her everywhere, bits of bone and tissue splattered against the walls and shelves in a way that didn't make sense. I've seen enough in my time to know what an aneurysm looks like, and this wasn't it. There was something unnatural about the whole scene, something that felt wrong on a fundamental level. And then there's Sarah. She hasn't spoken a word since it happened. Not to her father, not to me, not to anyone. At first, we thought it was just shock. Understandable, given what she saw. She was the one who found Karen. My brother had been at work, and it was just the two of them. And children, well, a child should never have to find their parent like that. Sarah didn't even call 911. She called me. By the time I got there, Sarah was sitting on the floor, shaking, her eyes wide with terror. The pantry door was wide open, revealing the gruesome aftermath. I'll never forget the way she looked at me, like she was trying to make sense of something too big, too awful to comprehend. When I asked her what happened, she just stared at me and pointed at the door. I moved in to help watch Sarah, since I work from home, and we removed the pantry door almost immediately. My brother thought it might help Sarah to see that it was gone, that whatever scared her so much couldn't get to her anymore. But she's still terrified, still refuses to go anywhere near closed doors. She won't even sleep in her own room now, because the closet door won't stay open no matter what we try. She spends her nights curled up on the couch, her eyes glued to the front door, watching it like she's waiting for something to burst through. And I find myself doing the same. I know it sounds crazy, but I've also started leaving all the doors open in the house, even in the bathroom. I tell myself it's to keep Sarah calm, to show her there's nothing to be afraid of, but deep down, I think it's more than that. Something about the way Karen died, about the way Sarah acts, it's gotten under my skin. I can't explain it, but I feel like there's something lurking just behind a closed door. Something that's waiting for the opportunity to strike. I don't know what it is, and I don't know if I'm losing my mind, but I'm not taking any chances. From now on, no more closed doors. Not until Sarah starts talking. It happened again. This time it was Uncle Greg. Just writing those words make my stomach churn, but I need to get it down. I need to make sense of what's happening before I lose my grip entirely. Greg was always the quiet type, more at home with his tools and machines than with people. His workshop was his sanctuary, filled with half-finished projects and the smell of sawdust and oil. He'd spend hours in there, tinkering with whatever contraption had caught his entrance that day. It was his escape, his way of shutting out the world, if only for a little while. But now I can't help but think maybe he shut himself in too well. Aunt Marie was the one who found him. She said she'd called him twice for dinner, but when he didn't answer, she went in to check on him. The workshop door was closed, locked, actually, which was strange in itself. Greg never locked that door. He liked to keep it open so that he could hear the sounds of the house, so that he could still feel connected, even when he was working on one of his projects. Marie said she knocked, but there was no answer. And that's when she heard it. A noise she described as a wet pop, followed by a heavy silence that filled the entire house. Something in her gut told her to break that door down. And she did. But by then, it was too late. I can't imagine what she must have felt when she finally got that door open. They said Greg was barely recognizable, just blood, bits of him everywhere. They found his wedding ring embedded in the ceiling, a detail that sticks with me for some reason. It's as if the force that destroyed him was so powerful that it literally sent pieces of him flying in every direction. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that it involved another closed door. We tried to piece it together, tried to make sense of how it could have happened. The doctors once again fell back on their familiar explanations, something about a gas leak or a freak electrical malfunction. But I saw the look on their faces. They didn't even believe it themselves. How could they? People don't just explode behind closed doors. It defies everything. Medical logic. It doesn't make sense. And then there's Sarah. She didn't say a word about Greg's death. She's become even more withdrawn, more terrified of doors. She won't go near them. She won't even look at them if she can avoid it. I tried talking to her, and at first she said nothing. And then she finally spoke, so soft I barely heard it.
It came from behind the door.
I've gotten even more meticulous about leaving doors open. I double check every door before I leave a room, make sure it's ajar, even if it's just by a crack. I've removed the locks from most of them, just in case. My brother thinks I'm being paranoid, but I've seen the way he hesitates before closing a door too. The way his hand lingers, as if he's debating if it's worth the risk. He hasn't said anything, but I know he feels it. This creeping dread that there's something out there. I know it sounds insane, but at this point I'm just scared. For now, all we can do is keep the doors open, keep our guards up, and I hope that that's enough. And I really hope that this doesn't happen again. I can barely even write this. My hands are shaking so bad that I can barely read the letters on the page, but I have to get this down. I have to try and make sense of what's happening before it gets me to. I don't even know where to start. Now the police are involved, since so many members of our family keep dying. I've been writing each time that it happens, hoping that by scrolling through this journal I can find something, some detail that will help it all make sense. I gave the police all the details I had, everything I knew, but now people I don't even know are dying. According to the police, they're still family, long-lost cousins or distant relatives, that type of thing, as if it's supposed to make me feel better. If this is the work of some lunatic like they want me to believe, she feels some kind of relief, right? Like there's a human explanation for all this. But I don't know. This doesn't feel like a person. How could a person be responsible for what's happening? How could they know that we were all somehow related when I didn't even know that I was related to some of these people? People so far removed from me that even a geneticist would spend sleepless nights trying to find the connection. No, this thing, it's not just hunting us. It's reaching out, finding everyone who even shares the faintest tie to my family. This isn't about being related. Karen wasn't related, but it killed her first. I keep thinking about what Sarah said, about how it came from the door. I didn't believe her at first, but now, after everything that's happened, I can't shake the feeling that she's right, that there's something evil using these doors as a way to get in, as if they're just gateways or something that it can use to get to us. But why? What did we do to deserve this? The police keep asking me if there's anyone who might have a grudge against us, anyone who might want to hurt our family. I've combed through everything I can find about our family history, looking for any kind of curse, as crazy as that sounds. But there's nothing. We're just ordinary people with ordinary lives, and we're still being hunted. I've stopped sleeping. I just can't. Every time I close my eyes, I can hear it, the creak of the door, the faint whisper of something moving just beyond my sight. I've been leaving all the doors open, even ones that lead outside, but it's not enough. I feel like it's still getting closer, still finding its way to me, waiting for that one moment when I let my guard down. I'm so tired. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up, how much longer I can keep the doors open and keep the fear at bay. But I have to try, right? Sarah's gone. I can't believe I'm writing these words. Can't believe that little girl who survived so much, who seemed to be the only one who understood what was happening, is just gone. I can hardly hold the pen at this point. It feels like my mind is just unraveling, bit by bit. It happened 2 nights ago, but it feels like a lifetime has passed since then. My brother called me while I was at the market, his voice barely more than a whisper, but I could hear the devastation in it. The raw, aching loss that mirrored my own. He's always been the strong one, the rock that kept our family grounded. But when he told me what happened, I heard something break inside him. Sarah had been acting strange for days. Well, stranger than usual. She had become even more withdrawn, more terrified of the doors that seemed to be closing in on us from all sides. She wouldn't go near any room with a door, wouldn't let anyone close one if she could help it. She had taken to sleeping in the hallway, curled up with a blanket and pillow right in front of the front door, so she could make sure it stayed open. Every time the wind rattled, or the windows or the door creaked somewhere in the house, she would startle awake, her eyes wide with fear, darting from one door to the next as if expecting something to come through at every moment. My brother and I, we tried to reassure her, tried to convince her that we were doing everything we could to keep her safe. But how do you comfort a child when you don't even believe the words you're saying? We both knew that deep down it was only a matter of time before that thing found a way in. We'd become prisoners in our own home, trapped by the very walls that were supposed to protect us. And then it happened. My brother said he was in the kitchen, trying to calm himself down with a cup of tea. Sarah had been unusually quiet, and he had finally convinced her to lay down on the couch in the living room. He thought she was asleep, but when he heard the faint creak of a door opening, he knew something was wrong. He found her in the bathroom, standing in front of the cabinet. He saw it. A dark, black shape that was crawling into his daughter's mouth, inky, almost transparent, like a shadow might be. He lunged for her, tried to pull her away from the bathroom cabinet door, but it was too late. Whatever it was finished slinking into her mouth, but before my brother could say or do anything, Sarah spoke for the second and last time.
It doesn't hurt.
My brother is still trying to process what happened. One moment, Sarah was there, and the next, she was gone. Her body in bits strewn all over the bathroom. By some sort of miracle, none of it landed on him. But he was left standing in a room that suddenly felt too big, too empty, with nothing but the echoes of her last words ringing in his ears. I don't know how he managed to call me, how he managed to form the words to tell me that she was gone. I could hear the grief in his voice, the utter despair that had finally taken hold of him, and I knew there was nothing I could say to make it better. The little girl who had been the only thing keeping us going despite everything was now gone. It feels like the end, like there's nothing left to fight for. My brother hasn't left the house since it happened. He just sits in Sarah's room, staring at the open window, refusing to move or speak. I've tried to reach out to him, tried to get him to come stay with me, but he won't listen. I think he's given up, resigned himself to whatever fate awaits him, no longer willing to keep fighting. And I'm not so sure that he's wrong. It's taken me a full day to write this, and even now, my hands are shaking so bad that the pen keeps slipping from my fingers. But I need to get it down, every detail, because I know what's coming next. And I don't want to leave anything unsaid. It was a storm. A freak storm. The kind that comes out of nowhere, howling and tearing like the world's trying to rip everything apart. The wind was so strong that it rattled the windows in their frames, shaking the entire house. My brother and I were on edge all day, listening to the weather reports, knowing that this kind of storm was exactly what we'd been dreading. I think we both knew, deep down, that something terrible was about to happen. The storm hit just after midnight. I was in the kitchen, trying to keep my mind occupied with the mundane task of making another cup of coffee, but every gust of wind sent a jolt of fear through me. My brother was in the living room, pacing back and forth, his eyes darting between the windows, the doors, everything we had propped open, as if he expected them to betray us at any moment. And then it happened. The front door, the one we'd kept open for weeks now, slammed shut with a deafening bang that echoed through the house like a gunshot. My heart stopped. For a moment, time seemed to freeze, and all I could hear was the howling of the wind and the pounding of my own heartbeat in my ears. I dropped the kettle and ran to the living room, the smell of boiling water and steam trailing behind me. My brother was already there, staring at the door, his face pale as a ghost. He didn't move, didn't say anything, just stood there, frozen in place, as if he couldn't quite believe what had just happened. But I knew with every fiber in my being, that it was over. The door had closed. The room was dark, the only light coming from a flickering lamp in the corner, casting long, twisted shadows along the walls. And that's when I saw it. The shadows. They were moving across the floor like some living thing, coiling and uncoiling as they spread towards my brother. It was almost beautiful, in a horrific, nightmarish kind of way. The darkness seemed to ripple, as if the shadows were alive, filled with an energy that was drawn to him, feeding off his fear. I screamed at him to run, to get away, but he didn't listen. He just stood there, staring at the door as the shadows worked its way up his body, pulling on his clothing as it headed for his mouth. And when it touched his lips, he finally screamed. It wasted no time, cutting off the sound before it could fully escape his throat. The shadows plunged into his mouth, silencing him almost as soon as the sound started. His eyes bulged in terror, his hands clawing at his own face as if he could somehow rip the darkness out. But it was no use. That thing had him, and there was nothing I could do. I stood there, paralyzed, as the shadows forced their way inside him. His skin stretched, his bones cracked, and his veins pulsed with that black, writhing mass that had once been nothing more than a creeping shadow on the floor. It was as if the darkness was filling him up, replacing every ounce of blood, viscera, with something twisted and malevolent. I stood there, paralyzed, and I don't remember what happened next. I think I screamed, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I did just stand there in shock, trying to process what I had seen. But the next thing I knew, I was running, tearing through the house, flinging doors open as I went, trying to put as much distance between myself and that front door as possible. I don't even know how I ended up here, in this abandoned hotel. It's miles from our house, but somehow in my panic, I found my way here. This place is a mess, falling apart at the seams, but it doesn't matter. All I cared about was that doors were open. Luckily, most of them are gone. I could only find one door that was still intact, and it's a solid wooden door that led to what I guess is a basement. I shoved some of the debris in the way to make sure the door couldn't close. And now I'm sitting here with nothing but the sound of my breathing and the light of my dying phone to keep me company. I don't know how much longer I have on its battery, but the writing helps distract me. I just have to make it till morning. I don't know how long I've been here. My phone hasn't died yet, and it's still dark, but that could mean anything. I've lost track of time, minutes, hours, days. It all blurs together in this place. I keep telling myself I'll be okay, that I just need to make it till morning, but I don't even know if morning will come. It feels like time has stopped altogether, leaving me trapped in this just endless darkness. I can't shake the feeling that something is watching me, something beyond the edges of the dim light of my phone. I keep glancing toward the basement door, the only one left intact, half expecting to see it move, to hear the creak of its hinges as it swings shut. But it hasn't. Not yet. The debris I shoved in front of it seems to be holding, but for how long? How long before the wind, or something worse, finds a way to push it closed? My thoughts keep drifting back to my brother, to the way the shadows consumed him, how they twisted and filled him until he was no longer himself. I can still see his eyes, wide with terror, pleading with me to help him, even as the darkness claims him. I should have done something. I should have tried to save him, but I froze. I just stood there, useless, while he was killed by that. Whatever it was. The guilt is suffocating. It feels like a weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe, making it hard to think. I keep asking myself what I could have done differently, what I could have done to save him, to save all of us. But the truth is, I don't have any answers. I'm just as lost as I was when that front door slammed shut. I've thought about leaving, about making a run from it, but where am I even supposed to go? The storm is still going on outside. I can hear the wind, the rain against the broken windows. And even if I did make it out, even if I did somehow make it through the storm, where could I possibly go that would be safe? This thing has already shown that it can find me no matter where I am. There's no escaping it. All I can do is wait. Wait for morning. Wait for the storm to pass. Wait for whatever comes next. But the waiting is killing me. Every minute that passes feels like an eternity. Every creak of this old building sends a jolt of terror through me. I keep expecting to hear that door close, to see the shadows move, to feel that same cold, creeping darkness that took my brother. The light is getting dimmer. I think it's going to give out soon. And I think I saw something move in the basement.